Ladies and gentlemen, this interview is brought to you by www.employeeescapeplan.com. And if you want to have more customers pay you more money more often, you want to get those foundational marketing systems in place, you want to get better at sales, you want to scale your business, I highly recommend employeeescapeplan.com. Again, that's www.employeeescapeplan.com. Joe is an amazing guy, and he is brilliant and solves incredible business problems and challenges, and I highly recommend you have a conversation with Joe. www.employeeescapeplan.com. James Hoff. James comes from a bloodline of salesmen. With a corporate sales background, James is now a licensed realtor in his 6th year of residential real estate sales, currently hanging his license at Keller Williams Realty out of Mission Viejo, California, right down the street from me. I'm in Costa Mesa. James has been a top producing agent and 6-figure income earner since his first year in the business, and rolling into 2018, he's officially started the James Hoff Group with a goal of continuing his own sales while growing a team of successful agents. Additionally, James is the host of the soon-to-be-launched Re-Raw podcast. This is a no-fluff, no-BS podcast about real estate for real estate agents and other industry professionals looking to grow their business. James is making efforts to influence an industry he is passionate about in an efficient, exciting, and direct form by tapping into the knowledge of others in the business, as well as his own experiences as an agent. James, are you ready to rock this, brother? Let's burn it up, he says. Let's burn it up. We burn it up, baby. Thank you so much for coming on today, James. We appreciate you taking the time, man.
It's awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. You're welcome. So I see your mic set up. What are you starting a podcast or something?
I got a podcast launching soon, so I haven't tested it live yet, man. So you're going to have to give me the feedback. How's it sounding over there?
Sounds great, man. Sounds great.
All right.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. I love it. Love the setup.
I was like, all right, we'll see how the audio setup goes today.
Test it out on a podcast interview. Why not?
Yeah.
Love it, man. So let's dive in to the main topic of today, and that is self-love through forgiveness. So, James, how have you had to learn to forgive yourself and really bring out the self-love, dive into self-love, focus on that self-love in your journey of being a realtor and being able to inspire future generations and thousands and tens of thousands and millions of real estate agents and industry professionals? How has that showed up for you, man?
Well, I'll tell you, in real estate, I feel like we're constantly having to throw out forgiveness because there's a lot of fire and fury on a regular basis. But I'll reel it into kind of the personal stuff. You know, back in 2016, I had my 3rd child, who is 17 months now. And it's crazy because I made this really nice strategic decision as a dad. Like, you know what, I'm taking some time. This is our last, you know, I'm holding on a little tighter and just kind of loving that moment. And I took some time off. I kept working the clients that I had, but I wasn't prospecting. I was trying to give myself time to really appreciate the kid and just like suck that up. And all 6 of these deals that I was working, they all fell apart.
Wow.
And I'm the epitome of like not counting my chickens before they hatch, right? And I felt in that moment, I totally did. I felt like I failed my family, and I was hard on myself. I was super, you know, we went into the next year with, we racked up incredible debt, which thank God since then we've worked to get out of, but it's taken a lot of, you know, mental fortitude to get past that, because what I had to do is ultimately, you know, talk about forgiveness. I had to forgive me first. And I think the craziest thing that I learned through that exercise of being able to identify that it's okay to go through that struggle. And I made the conscious choice to do that, to spend time with my family. So I probably gained more than the stress was costing me anyway. But I think the biggest thing that I realized through that I've taken with me to this day is that if you can't forgive you, then you'll never forgive anybody else. And choosing to not forgive other people is basically just giving them all of the control. And that sounds kind of weird. Maybe like, you know, it's not a control game, I guess, in some sense, right? But, you know, to be able to control your emotions, control your mindset, control your activity, if you can let go of things, I think forgiveness gives you that ability to truly let go. And so I think that was a big lesson learned, but it's been very, very relevant in my recent past journey, and it remains relevant every day.
Wow, dude, that's so powerful. And just to recap, that was like you had this moment where you're like, I got 6 deals. Like, dude, this is gonna be epic. Let's close these. And then they all fell through, and you're like, like, oh crap.
Yeah, there was a lot of words.
Yeah, right. Like that oh no moment. And like you had to forgive yourself. You had to move forward. You had to be able to let that negative energy go, or the, why did this happen? Like, why didn't I see it coming? What happened? What was missing? What could I have done differently? And you had to just move on from that. Of course you gained the wisdom, but you kept moving forward with that, and you really got that. If I'm going to keep moving forward and provide for my family, I got to keep my head in the game. There's no opportunity to just like take myself out and sit and sulk and throw a pity party. You can probably throw a little one, but you got to get back in the game and stay in action. And like you said, when we are able to forgive ourselves and forgive others, that keeps the power, keeps the ability to be fulfilled, the ability to stay in momentum, to create results, to be happy, keeps that power in our hands instead of giving it away to others, which I think is super important, because a lot of people are giving away their power and what people think about them. They're giving that away, and then they're just like living this mediocre life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So I love that we already are diving in deep, man. Thank you for sharing that. And let's dive in a little bit more about what you're doing today, being a realtor, and how that's going for you, all that good stuff, man.
Yeah, so you kind of hit the nail on the head, jumped in, I'm in my 6th year now. And I kind of originally got into this business thinking I would start like the massive team and take over the world. And I quickly realized, I'm like, man, I don't want to deal with like the contracts of people. I just want to help people. I want to grow the business, but I'm going to deal with the paperwork beyond my own transactions. Right. So I started focusing just on as much as I could do for me. And what I realized is I capped myself. I got to the point where it was like, I'm not leveraging all the tools and resources I have available to me. Right. And during this journey to discover myself more as a real estate agent, I came to this understanding that it wasn't actually the clients that were the hardest ones to work with, but rather the other agents on the other side of the deal, for a variety of reasons. But I became inspired to try and influence the business on a different level, which is kind of the inspiration behind this podcast called Re-Raw that I'm starting, Real Estate Raw. And when I really started breaking things down, I realized, my gosh, like not only can I not do all the real estate business myself, but if I'm going to have an opportunity to create content and give back in a different way to this community, I have to leverage my resources differently, because I'm going to start giving up income and taking on a new career, or start training people and bringing people in under my wing, under my direction, kind of teach them what I've done, and be able to continue maintaining my business, have some resources to help assist me in that growth along the way. In the meantime, nurture and grow other real estate agents' business, and then hopefully be able to give back to this community on a larger scale. So got a few irons in the fire right now, which is fun. And I love every minute of the real estate sales. And I'm not doing this podcast in any way to get away from that. I'm actually trying to do the podcast in addition to it, because I'm just so passionate about being out in the field with the clients and just playing that game and changing people's lives. It's just such a unique journey to be in like this super stressful moment when people are trying to buy their dream home, but keep them like calm and tell them how exciting it is and enjoy the ride. Yeah. But there's a lot of brokenness to the industry, and as wonderful as the business is, it's a fairly low barrier to entry. It's a little bit of time and a small financial commitment, take a test, and you kind of have that license to kill, right? So I want to encourage agents and other industry professionals in this business to take themselves more seriously by taking their business seriously. Just because you work for yourself doesn't mean you should just, go flailing about your day like you don't know what you're doing. You always got to be learning. You always got to be challenging yourself, and you got to hold yourself almost to a higher level of accountability when you're working for yourself.
Yeah, you have to. It's like that. They say that owning your own business is the fastest and deepest, most challenging course in personal development that we can take on. And, I totally agree with that. And owning your own business, you must be more effective with your boundaries. You must be more effective with your prioritization. You must be more effective if you want to build something of significance, of consequence, to make a good living or great large sums of money so you can live the life of your dreams and travel the world. So I love that you're saying that, man. It's freaking, that's the epitome of self-love, is setting up those boundaries and the priorities. Yes. 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 Dude. So tell us a little bit more about your journey to becoming a real estate. I think you said that you're doing it for about 6 years. What were those earlier years like?
Yeah. So before real estate, I have a corporate sales background. So I kind of have the privilege actually of being groomed in that environment, because it gives you kind of a nice education and you get paid for it, right? It's all the stuff they don't teach you in college, but you kind of sort of need.
Yep.
So, I had worked in like selling shipping, knocking on doors in Irvine.
Wow.
So you're flying into like John Wayne Airport, been escorted out of like all the buildings you can see, you know, but get thick skin from it, right? And, done some consulting and merchandising in the athletic industry. I've worked for Callaway Golf in sales and customer service, and New Balance footwear doing territory management. And, just I really feel like it was just a full-on education. It was almost like the full scholarship thing, right? And you get paid to do it, but you get paid to learn a lot. And eventually I realized I madly loved sales, but I was so not passionate about the product I was selling. And that sucks. Dude. It just sucks. I mean, and in the corporate world, I always worked on the wholesale side, right? So I was selling golf clubs or shoes into the retailers, and then they'd resell them. We're always out selling the inventory. So, we have this, anyone who knows Orange County real estate in Southern California, it's like, oh, we're short on inventory. Well, guess whose problem that is? This guy's, because it's my job to go find it, right? Yeah. I don't get to call up the manufacturing plant and be like, hey, where's the stuff, So I think the corporate world kind of gave me a great foundation, and it taught me a lot of amazing skills, which I'm infinitely thankful for. I mean, it's amazing what I got there, but I finally am selling the product that I love, marching to the beat of my own drum. I get to sell the way that I want to, talk to people the way that I think they deserve to be treated, like inject that sense of humanity and get off the script that the corporate world seems to be shoving down everyone's throat in that like robotic way. And then, I got into real estate. So had a buddy of mine who I've known since like 7th grade, who happened to be a broker, and he was managing a larger group where I could still kind of have my independence. And he kind of just taught me everything he knew, and, gave me a chance to operate under his direction kind of thing, and gave me, kind of earn my wings, like the ones you got behind you. And then, and just, went flying, man. So it's, and it's not been without struggle. We certainly have that roller coaster ride. But I don't think that's exclusive to real estate. I think all entrepreneurs and all self-employed people, I mean, they go through that. So it's been an amazing journey of growth, and there's been a lot of personal development along the way too. So.
Oh man. So I'm curious, you talked about this roller coaster ride, which a lot of entrepreneurs seem to be on. How have you dealt with that? How have you responded to it? And especially through the filter of self-love and forgiveness, how has that showed up for you?
Well, the first thing I'll say goes to my wife and I and our relationship, and I apply this to my business and pretty much everything I do. It's like the motto of our marriage is it doesn't matter if it's a relationship thing or if it's a money thing or if it's a whatever it is. The theme is we'll figure it out. So in those low moments when you just dip down, you just gonna be like, yeah, we'll figure it out. I mean, it's gonna suck. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But we're going to figure it out. And I'll tell you from a self-love perspective, we're all human, right? And I think a lot of times you look at those people up on stage, you look at, people on your interviews or guys like you in these leadership roles, right? And you're talking to amazing people. And a lot of times the audience really feels like, my gosh, you're so above that. You can't relate to me. You can't understand it. I go down my rabbit holes all the time. And I think what the biggest thing for self-love for me is to know that I'm worth it. My kids love me, and we all deserve it, but you got to work for it. And so it's eliminating the distractions and getting out of your head, which is probably the biggest distraction of all, and knowing that whatever you did before, you're capable of it and you can do it again. Yes. So get out of your mind. Believe in yourself, and a lot of that sounds really cliche, but man, in those down in the dump moments when you're at the rock bottom, it sure doesn't feel cliche, So identify
that phrase, cliche, I was thinking about that just like yesterday or the other day. I think that term, that when people say that, it's almost like we've been programmed into it, right? We're very driven, focused, motivated entrepreneurs, but people say it around us. And I feel like that phrase, it's so cliche or it's so trite, it's overused. I think that's said by cynical people who are not willing to do the work to master the basics and the fundamentals, and who are tired of hearing the same old advice because they're not willing to put in the work to get the results. I guess we're done. No, yeah, exactly. So it's just so fascinating. I'm on a mission, and I think a lot of people in the personal development and entrepreneurial space are to re-enroll the world in mastering the basics.
Yeah,
because the basics are gold, man. Especially sales, dude. Sales, you must master the basics. You must practice those objections. You must get comfortable, or at least masterful, adequate, skillful with being able to handle people. And the more that we practice it, the more we study those fundamentals, and through leadership, through books, through podcasts, through whatever sources, we become more effective. And it's that foundation that we can rely on because we know we've practiced, we have the competence, we have the confidence that we're able to show up in a way that has people be like, damn, this dude's like a natural, or he's an expert, or whatever. It's because we put in the freaking work.
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up because I just was doing a recording session the other day for this podcast.
Yeah.
And I was talking about how you got to go back to basics. You got to have the strong foundation. And when I was a gymnast, early in my, way back when, we always went, the season ended, you're doing your double backflips and your twists, and at the end they're like, all right, today we're going to practice our swinging on the high bar, or we're going to do a cartwheel or whatever, but you had to do it perfectly because that was the foundation. And it always makes me think, and this is what I referenced on the recording the other day, was there's this episode in Angels in the Outfield, that old movie from the night where they're talking about, they're like, we're going back to fundamentals. And fundamentals in the middle of the season? Well, yeah, man, you got to have the basics down. It's never too late to start that. So
yes,
it's a constant regrounding, right?
Yes, man. I love that. Fundamentals, and that's so cool. You used to be a gymnast, man. That's awesome. That's
I guess it's all coming out, right?
Can't keep it together anymore. It's just let it all out. Throw it on the walls. I love it, man. So, your podcast that you're creating, it's about being raw, raw, real estate raw. Tell us why you decided to go with that specific direction.
Well, because 5-letter domains are hard to come by, and that one I just figured out how I could make it work. No, it's funny. I didn't even think before websites and all this stuff. I was just what, raw, real estate raw. And then I had this whole thing that you can extrapolate the raw to real agents work. And so, we got all these nice tags that go with it. But the subtext is laying foundations for real estate success. Wow. So truly talking about the basics, the best practices. But I came up with this idea, Chris, because there's so much fluff in this industry. It's that pat on the back, What's the the pitchers? You see the coaches go to the pitcher's mound and they pat. Hey, where's my pat? And you pat them on the butt and go back to the dugout after the little motivational talk. And I think, I don't want this to be misconstrued as negative because it's not intended to be. But I think what happens at a lot of these broker meetings, or a lot of the dialogue that happens in trying to grow someone's business, it's all this rah. You can do it. You just got to believe in you. And it's yeah, but you have to take action. You actually have to, it's more than just wanting it. You have to do it, and I think it may have been at the event I was at with you, the BDB event for the goal setting. And they said, don't make a liar out of yourself, right? The intentions are one thing, right? But the actions are what prove the intentions true. The actions are the truth. And I think that's what this is really supposed to be about. It's that raw, I'm not going to waste your time. We're going to get down to business. We're going to talk about what needs to be talked about. You're going to hear what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And we're going to cut out all the vendor pitches, all the fluff and stuff that comes along with it, and the rah. We're just going to dig down and play the game. It's not going to be a 2-hour meeting about all right, well, okay. And let's go around the room and, how does that make you feel? Well, look, there's a time and a place for that, but we're not going to do it here because there's too much in real estate where they spend time going, And for half of the day today, we're going to talk about all the things you need to be doing, which primarily includes being out in the field selling, which is funny to me because they spend so much time talking about it and nobody actually does it. So the show is intended to be short form, high energy, very direct, just cut through the fluff, say it like it is, and just get out there and work.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it, man. So especially in an industry, it sounds like, you're really sticking to your values of, number one, the foundational principles, which have had you get to where you are and be successful. And you're also like being the trendsetter and not giving a crap what people think. You have this level of self-love and forgiveness for yourself of what you've gone through and what you've experienced. And you know that I don't care what other people think about me. I don't care what they're doing in their meetings. What we're going to do is just add value. We're going to show up and we're going to make a freaking difference. So how do you see yourself making that difference with the podcast? And what's your plan? What's your execution on that execution strategy? And what can people really count on you for in the show and moving forward?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is the podcast is free. And, this. Any kind of content production takes a lot more work than just the short amount of time that you are live on the air.
Yep.
And, coaching is super expensive. Mm-hmm. Accountability groups can take a lot of time. There's a ton of value there, but they're very specific in when you access those resources. And so the podcast is free. It's available when you want it. It's on the go. So that's the first big thing is, there's free opportunity. I might find a way to monetize that later, but we'll get there. But there'll always be the free component. That free material, I think, is something people are starving for, and not being able to afford the information or afford the coaching. It doesn't relieve you of the responsibility of the knowledge. So you still have to have it. So the podcast is going to have 3 different formats. So we're going to do three different episodes, 3 different shows. Once a week each. The first one's going to be sales meetings. They're going to be short form sales meetings, 20 minutes or less. If I can get the message out in less than 20 minutes, and I've got a lot of friends that don't think I can get a message out in less than 20 minutes, but if I can get it out in less than 20 minutes, then shorter it'll be. It's not going to be a waste of time. One topic, direct to the point, move on. The second kind of episode we're doing is interviews. But what makes the interviews a little different is we're going to interview agents and industry professionals and sales influencers, but from every walk of life. And I think what I notice most on these, on a lot of the big shows in the real estate business, or just a lot of these big inspirational shows, have a tendency to go after the big dogs. The guys who are making 15, 20, $30 million a year. And, you go to a show or a convention and you see them up on stage and they really put them in the spotlight, and they talk about how amazing it is to be where they are, and if you work hard you can get there. But when you're sitting in the 300th row, you're like, whatever, I got my wife and 3 kids in my schedule and I'm trying to lose weight, my diet sucks and I didn't sleep last night, and you wouldn't understand, he's got so much money. No, man, there's so many other people out there that are walking the same walk you are. So what I want to do is peel back the excuse by reminding people on their journey that they're not alone. And that's actually one of the big messages I would say, to this audience and to your audience right now, is that when it's not about just tapping the resources of these guys that write the books and publish the New York Times bestseller, find somebody else that's inspirational to you, or find somebody else in your space that's walking a similar journey with a similar set of circumstances. I'm not the only husband and father of 3 kids who likes to coach his daughter's soccer on the weekends. You make time. And I'm not perfect at the way that I spend it either. But if I find somebody else who's walking a similar path, might just be doing it a little bit better, I can use them as a stepping stone. And now I'm not sitting in row 300. I'm in row 285. And then, and before you know it, you're at row 150 and then whatever. And then eventually you're the guy up on stage, right? So the biggest mistake that people make is, in my opinion, is they look at these people that are being interviewed, they hear them speak, and they don't think that they've ever been in their shoes. So I want to eliminate that with the interviews and make sure we get people from all walks of life in there, because we all have different goals too, different reasons for getting in the business. And then the last format which is kind of the silly format. I'm calling it the ramble session. It's a little re-raw ramble. And that's just going to be the beer talk, man. That's the fun stuff. That's the minute to let it out, talk about the war stories, talk about the crazy deals that are blowing up in your face, or the silly questions people are asking on social media that they should be like, I don't know, talking to an attorney about or something, you know. So we'll just have some fun and share some of the random sides of real estate in there, the stuff you never that people don't know goes on behind the scenes.
How did that evolve? Those three, different areas. How did you choose to do those three versus others, and how did that happen? I know there's a story.
This is the evolution. So a few years ago, I started listening to John Lee Dumas. So Mr. Entrepreneur on Fire, and had a chance to meet him at the Thrive event this past year out in Vegas.
Awesome.
And just been a cool inspiration. And, I've been trying to surround myself with better people and all this stuff. So the more I surround myself with amazing people and influencers and all this, those wheels start turning a lot faster, and, that smoke starts coming out of your ears and you're going, oh gosh, what if I did this? What if I did that? So originally I was like, you know what? I just want to interview agents once or twice a week. And then I was like, well, I got to interview more than just agents. Like, the lenders suck to work with too. Like, they got to learn the contract, or they got to learn some stuff. So then I was like, well, how could I influence the industry beyond just the agents? Okay, well, maybe I'll do interviews with agents and sales professionals or other industry professionals. But then it turned into, I got to be able to teach people something. But I felt at first it was kind of like, I don't know, am I being too arrogant to think that I'm the guy that should do a sales meeting monologue once a week, like just this clown talking? But man, I've learned a lot, and it's not that I have all the answers, but I know so many different resources to tap into. And so I want to bring other people onto the show to tap into those resources. But then, and I won't do sales meetings just me all the time, but I want to do the sales meetings so that there's an efficient platform for people to get information. And it evolved because I was starving for it. I stopped going to broker meetings because they'd set up a 60 to 90 minute session to teach you how to do different things. And the first 45 minutes were the vendors pitching all their cool stuff, and and if you talk to this guy, you can get a gift basket for your clients. I'm like, you guys don't know how to make a gift basket? This is pretty easy stuff here, So it's just kind of like, I didn't come to the sales meeting to talk about gift baskets. Like, let's give me the meat and bones.
Right.
So the inspiration and the evolution kind of came from the burning desire to have it for me. And so now if I get to talk to all these other agents and industry professionals who are, walking that walk, well, lucky me, I get to learn a lot from that right there, right? That. There's a lot to be gained from that side,
Oh my God.
And so that's the really selfish opportunity. But then the sales meeting's a huge give back. And, the ramble session's the most recent thing. And I got to be honest, Chris, sometimes you just got to get it off your chest, and I don't have time to get to the bar every day. So sometimes I'm just going to call someone up and we're just going to ramble for a few minutes and get it out. So, but that's the big thing, so it's still an evolution, some of me goes, whoa, what could I do for a fourth episode, or should I but then I like reel myself back in. I'm like, bro, you got to launch the show first. What are you doing?
Right. Test it first.
So we're coming up in March though, but yeah, so that's kind of the inspiration between the three formats. It's just stuff that I've been starving for myself, and I want to be able to provide that to other people. P.S. There are some good real estate podcasts out there. I think that it takes a lot of time to get some of the information out, and some of it to me just sounds really forced, and it's not because you can't learn from everybody. It's just the content just takes so long to get out.
Yeah.
So
they like you said, there's a lot of fluff around it that you just got to sort through the piles of BS to get to the gold nuggets, and you want to just like, hey, here's the piles of gold nuggets, take what you want.
Yeah, exactly. But one nugget at a time. I got to keep the listeners intrigued, I got to come back next week for that other 10-20 minutes.
That's right, man. That's right. Good message. And I just so want to speak to that for people out there who are considering and focusing on marketing. I know for me a big challenge was, well, the scarcity principle. Like, I want to be a good human being. I just want to give and give and give and give and give. Like, I want to give them all the gold. And I heard if you give like all the gold, then people will like want more, you know, they'll want the main course, or if this is what he gives when it's free, imagine what's on the other side. Yes, and make it a digestible amount, because too much information, overwhelm, as James was talking about, like, yes, there's a lot of information out there, but how do we make it so it's effective and simple and leverage for our audience? You know, even this 12-hour marathon format is a challenge for people. So that's why we broke it up into individual podcasts to be released later on, so they can go back and listen to it on their own time and the specific episodes that resonate with them. So I think that that's so powerful, man, to be able to just give them the gold, the perfect amount that they need, the one nugget at a time. Go implement this. Come back, let us know how you did.
Well, and kind of like what you do, just to tag onto that one more sentence here, is like you break your show up not just with interviews, but with different types of sessions, right? And I kind of equate that to the whole different strokes for different folks, you know, and I talk a little bit about this on my intro episode as well, that there's, you know, we're all spoken to differently. All of us are reached in different ways. And some people don't want the 20-minute monologue. You know, some people need to hear from somebody else who is walking the walk that they're walking. You know, somebody need that more than hey, here's how you do a Facebook ad, you know, or whatever. So there's something there for everybody. And that's tough because you don't want to approach your whole business trying to please the entire crowd. But I think having multiple ways of getting into, getting information to people is a good thing. And I'll finish that thought with, I've talked to a few different folks who do one type of show, 5, 6, 7 days a week. And the feedback I've gotten from that, because I've approached them and said, hey, is it confusing? Is it confusing for me to have, 3 different types every week? And they said, no, because someone may listen to all of them, or they may just say, that's the one thing I want to listen to every week. So you're going to capture different people. But yeah, there's a little something there for everyone. I'm pretty stoked because it also keeps it interesting for me.
Yeah. Dude, I love it. I'm curious, how has taking on this vision of the podcast and creating this, how has that either inspired you into greatness or challenged you to grow, to manage your time more effectively? How do you see it shaping your life moving forward? And from before, let's say you didn't really have this on the horizon yet. Maybe you wanted to do it, but it wasn't like serious. It wasn't like a real plan until the last couple months or whatever. What do you feel is like different about your life moving into this new stage?
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you, to tap into the kind of the headline, right? There's a lot more distractions in my life now. And so, I'm a list person. You got the time blockers, and then you got the list people, and I am totally a list person. And I have had more people than I care to acknowledge come up to me and be like, well, if you want to be successful, you need to be a time blocker. I'm like, all right, well, I'll tell you what. No. So I make my list and I stick to it, and I've had wild success with it. But then I started getting into this crazy routine of chaos. I didn't know exactly I always knew what I could focus on, but there's a lot of distractions, and there wasn't that structure, and I wasn't protecting my space. Right. So, what's changed a lot in my life is kind of combining the time blocking and the list stuff together, allocating, this is my real estate time. Do not work on the podcast. This is the podcast time. Do not work on real estate. And then this is your free time. And this is where you get to call all those angry people back or finish your negotiations or whatever you got to do. So I realized that I have to employ new systems and new structures to create higher levels of success. And for me, I've been resisting that for actually longer than I care to admit, because we all get set in our ways. And I haven't wanted to let go of, this is how I like to do things. And the true answer to all of this is, you can keep doing things like that if you want. You just may not have the space to do all the other stuff that you want to do as well. So the biggest thing that this has done to me is forced me into some systems and structures that I am wildly uncomfortable with, but figuring out.
How does that, how do you think that will shape how your audience resonates with you and how your team resonates with you and learns from you?
It's already created some encouragement, I think, for my team. And some of the encouragement, I think, comes from the idea that some of the systems we're figuring out together. But there's a few things that I've really employed ahead of time that I got comfortable with, that I knew, wow, I should have been doing this for longer. And it gives other people something to aspire to. What's really funny, Chris, is I thought that being a team leader was going to be all about like, oh, everyone in real estate just wants leads. Right. The reality is a lot of people in this business just don't have the structure. They're personable and they're approachable and they're passionate about stuff, but they throw arrows every which way. They don't know, they're not aiming at anything.
Yep.
So I think it's provided inspiration for my team immediately. And I see that because we're all working on those focal points together. And I think for the audience, it'll do the same. I hope that it provides encouragement that it's okay if you experience that chaos, that, different systems work differently for all of us, but you gotta try new things, and you should never discount or discard, the whole like, oh, I'm a list person, so that's just how I am, because now I've categorized myself and put myself in this box that makes it very difficult to escape from,
So I'm curious. Curious about being focused, right? We're talking about being focused and what happens when you get distracted, when you get knocked off track. How do you get back on track? And shiny object syndrome, which is kind of coming up right now. All these distraction, all these different opportunities. How do you find the balance, or how do you stay focused with that, with all these different opportunities and advice going on? How do you know what to stick with and what to let go and let pass by?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be honest, Chris, that's something that to this day I struggle with, because there's always new technology that comes out to make it more exciting and more fun. But the way that I've found I get around it is I actually block time to play. So if you got your day blocked out, and this is my real estate time, and this is my podcast time, and this is my free time up here, it might only be 15 minutes of free time, but I can hop on the internet, I can watch some YouTube videos. What are other people getting with that? So when I know for a fact that I get that play time over here, it actually kind of, it takes away the urge to jump into it when I'm in the moment trying to focus on other things. And to answer your question about regaining focus, I mean, man, there's phone calls and people walking into your office, and those types of distractions happen all day. And I do annual, quarterly, weekly, daily things to refocus myself. I don't know where you want to start on that or how you want to jump into it.
Just go straight, bro. Straight.
Yeah.
Straight in.
So from an annual perspective, I think, it's important we all do the basics, like the fundamental goal setting, right? Yeah. Quarterly, you should review that, whether it's alone or with other people. That's a preference thing. Some people employ, and I've employed at different times, what I call a board of directors, which is like your own group of people that you can make your announcements and hold you accountable, and in exchange you may return that favor. On a weekly basis, I do kind of mastermind meetings, and I have weekly phone calls with folks that I've met in different places, different events, people that were inspiring to me. And we don't just hold each other accountable, but we talk about what we're doing successfully and what we're struggling with. And that one thing alone really, really makes sure that if you've had a garbage week and have just lost your focus and have no idea which direction to walk, I mean, that kind of like turns you around and sets you straight back on that path.
You know what the metaphor I imagine? If you're like, let's say you're like you're on the roller coaster ride, or let's say you're mountain climbing, right? And you lose your footing on the mountain climb, and you're like sliding down the mountain, just like desperately trying to grab for something. That call is like your boom, like foothold. Oh, shit.
Yeah. It's that, it's like the carabiner or whatever, right? It's like, it catches you. You can only fall so far.
Yeah.
And I should attribute some of that to a previous manager I had. He always encouraged the weekly meetings, because he's like, hey, it doesn't have to be long. 10 minutes for you, 10 minutes for me, 30 minutes for you, 30 minutes, whatever works for you, but have a structured meeting with very specific action So, okay, this 15 minutes is for this, that 15 minutes is for that, and then it's your turn. And it gives you a chance to get it off your chest, get enough feedback, and then refocus where you need to be. And it's not the woe is me, oh, I failed, I didn't get any of my stuff done. It's like, okay, let's assess why I didn't get it done.
Totally.
And that's okay. No problem. Now we understand. Oh, that was a distraction I had. Okay. How can I handle that better in the future? And then get back on your path to what you were focused on before. And then, Chris, the biggest thing that I wanted to tell you about today with the distractions is what I've been working on most recently, which is, I don't know if this is strange. I haven't really heard much of it before, but I've taken that weekly and that annual game planning and I've applied it to my actual everyday. So I've created a plan when I get distracted of how I can refocus. So part of my daily plan is literally to refocus. So like on my list every day, it's like, okay, refocus. And every time I get distracted, that person walks into my office, that phone call throws me off, whatever breaks my stride, I look at that refocus point and I jump into one of the activities that I know will help me bring it back. And the reason I found this to be really, really important in my day is because as I've added more responsibility into my schedule with this podcast and still I want the same amount of time with my family and I want the same results for my business, but now I also want this other thing, right? And it's funny, and I don't know who is responsible for the test. I guess it doesn't matter right now, but they say there's a statistic, right? I think it's 22 minutes to refocus when you're thrown off your game.
It's crazy.
That's a lot of time. And you know what I realized? If I wrote down one thing that happens more consistently every single day than anything else, it's distractions. And you could literally be derailed mentally for a moment. If I have a bad call, I'm in the middle of just a crazy negotiation on a deal right now, and it has been so emotionally and mentally taxing. Like when we're done, I'm going to the gym. I got to get it out, man, because it's crazy. But I have to have something that I can turn to and say, okay, I can't let that negotiation or that 5-minute phone call that is time sensitive that I cannot avoid. I must take that call in the moment it comes because it's the difference of getting it or not. And sometimes that sucks to acknowledge that you got to take it, but I got to take it, right? And I know when I'm done, I got to get back on track. And I don't have 20 minutes to refocus, or that person comes into my office. I don't have the time. So here's what I've been doing. I have a few different things that I do depending on the mood that I'm in. And I know that I've got 3 or 4 or 5 different activities or things that I can do that help me tune in 1 minute, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, instead of 22, 25, 30 minutes, a 2-hour lunch break, whatever.
Boom.
So number one, there's a great app and it's totally free. I don't know about you Android users, but on the iPhone it is. It's called Relax Melodies. Yes. So I got this app because I was trying to put my kids to sleep in bed, and they wouldn't go down. I needed to relax them. And there was this app and it had all this, I was looking for, I think I had searched white noise. And so I searched white noise and this Relaxed Melodies came up, and it's got 100 different sounds on it. It's got the crackling fire and the horns and the bells or the Zen music or the wind blowing or the waves crashing. And you can literally pick, you can combine them. You can do singular ones. You can make your own little track. So I realized I was so at peace when I was holding my kids, like rocking them to sleep, and they fall asleep on your chest. And that, like, man, that grounded me so fast. Like 2 minutes of that was like my power nap, and it totally got my focus back and it settled me so that I could get out of that chaos. So I was like, man, what I should do? I should take that app and just turn it on at work. So what I started doing is going, okay, that's going to be one of my plans. When I get distracted, that's going to help me focus back in. When I get off of that really, really tough phone call today, and it's not like I was getting yelled at, but this is a game of chess. You got to be on your game in the moment. It's mentally taxing, right? So I got off of there. I'm like, man, I need to relax for a minute. I listened to that for 2 minutes, and it took that deep breath, like your deep breathing at the very beginning of the day today, and you just let it go. You feel all that tension being released, and it helps me get back in my zone and pick up right where I left off. For some people, and I do this too, for some people, it's literally something as simple as, I'm going to go take a lap around the building. I'm just going to go for a quick walk. I'm going to get outside and get that fresh air. I'm going to listen to my favorite song. But you got to pick it before that day comes up, before the distraction comes up. You got to have your 2 or 3 go-tos. If it's, if it was the person that I can't stand in my day, then I'm putting this song on. But if it's something, so I have those very specific plans to help me get back, not a week later, not a month later, but right there at that moment, so that I don't lose the day.
Wow. Damn. That's powerful. It's powerful, dude. So you mentioned that you have a couple different activities. You said the application, you have these sounds that you can listen to get grounded. You talked about songs that you can listen to. What are these different songs that have you get into a different state depending on what you're going for? Eye of the Tiger might be especially if you want to get back into like sales mode and you're like going to be making calls, that might be a good song for you. So it all depends on what is the state you want to move yourself into.
Sure.
And then you also mentioned like going around on the outside, taking a walk around the building. That's freaking awesome, dude. This is gold.
Yeah, there's some self-discovery that comes along with it too, Chris. Totally. I mean, I think that's the beauty of it. Yeah. A lot of us go, well, what's the best practices in my business? And what's the best practices in your life? If you can get a few things to get that like soulful healing or that, that resolve in the middle of your day for you personally, because this is a fast world. You got to have that minute for you. And sometimes, people say, take that power nap, 20-minute power nap, and take that power minute. Take that power minute and just recollect yourself. I'm a huge fan of frequent breaks.
Yes.
Work hard for that 20 minutes with like super high intensity and just focus in on that. And dude, go get that cup of tea. That's fine.
Yep.
Call your mom and tell her you love her. That's cool.
Yeah.
But you got to have a plan of action on what you're going to do to fill that space, because it has to be something that's not going to further distract you, but something that's going to give you that relief and then let you bring it back.
Wow. Wow, I love that. So it's almost like you could have your to-do list for work, for your career. You can have a to-do list for getting yourself relaxed and back into state, for depending on what state you want to be in. And there's also like if you have a 10-minute break or whatever to do kind of, I would say that there's times you might even want to distract yourself. You might want to just like disconnect and do whatever.
That's when we go to Target.
Yeah. Yeah.
Walk around Target for 2 hours and buy $700 worth of stuff you didn't need. But yeah.
I love it. So cool. So especially, I love that you're integrating both the list building and the time blocking now. I think that's a really great strategy. So James, we're beginning to wrap it up now, and we want to know like what are the really final takeaways that you want our audience to receive and the new reality that they get to step into because of their time invested here, man.
This is a game of mindset. I went into 2017 after that story I told you about my son and going into just financial chaos with one word, and it was mindset. And I don't know why I did it, why I picked it, whatever it was, but something it was like my little light bulb. And I just was like, you know what? I can wallow in this, or I can just find someone to hold their hand and learn from a little bit, and take a piece of their book and then take a page out of this book and put it together and just refocus and move forward. It's a mindset game. So this year I've got 3 words. I've got mindset, action, and intensity.
Oh.
So those are my 3 for 2018. Yeah. Mindset took me through 2017 from complete financial chaos to literally the most fruitful year financially I have ever had.
Wow.
I just had to wait for it. That was tough. But then to wrap that up though, but then action I put in because it's great to have the mindset, but then you have to actually take action. And then I realized last year, to give you a quick 30-second story, I was going to the gym last year and I was like, you know what? Part of my mindset changed. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to get back in shape. I'm going to feel better about me. And I lost like 12 or 13 pounds over a couple months. And then I went back at the end of the year and I weighed exactly the same as I did at the beginning. The action was there. I was still going to the gym all the time, regularly, and more than I had in years and years and years. But the intensity of the action got relaxed, and that was not acceptable. And that's the part that had to change. So I went into this year ramping up the intensity when those 5-pound weights, which you don't know because you probably lift like 50 pounds, but when those 5-pound weights start feeling comfortable, you got to pick up the 10s and, you know, and then the 12s and the 15s and kind of do that. So mindset, action, and intensity for this year.
Epic, man. Epic. So, James, this has been super, super valuable, man. Real practical stuff. And I took probably more notes than I've taken on anyone else today because of all the things that you're saying, the wisdom that you're spitting out for us, man. We appreciate you. And how do we stay connected with you? How do we continue the journey with James?
Well, thank you for having me. And you can stay connected to me on Facebook. It's facebook.com/James Hoff CA. Like California. Hoff is spelled like Jimmy Hoffa without the A. So yeah, facebook.com/James Hoff CA. You can find me on there, my personal page too. Happy to be friends. And you can go to my website for my new podcast. It is totally a spam campaign right now to just like get your contact information and stay in touch. So if you want to get a hold of me, the best way to do it, because I'm totally going to be harassing everybody that goes to that page. But it's this guy right there is reraw.com. So it's RERAW.com. Stands for Real Estate Raw. So easy to remember. You can slam your information in there, or you can email me directly at james@reraw.com.
Boom. James, dude.
Boom,
you're fiery, bro. You're fiery. I love this. I love this. You are already an epic host, and I'm stoked to see who you are and how you're showing up in the world in another year after launching this thing, building a massive community, bringing this service to the people who are ready to hear it, who are hungry for it, man, and just providing that excellent environment and quality of life for your family, man. Really, really acknowledge you for stepping up to the plate and making this life about big impact, big dreams, and this is just the beginning, baby.
Man, there's a lot of inspiration that comes from you too. So thank you for what you're doing on that side, because I got to tell you, man, you are something special.
Thank you, brother.
It's cool what you do. You are so contagious. And when you I'm going to tell everyone this before you go. I won't let you off till I get it out. I sent you a thing the other day, Facebook private message. I was like, hey man, can't wait to be on the show, whatever. And you came back. I said, have an amazing day. And you said, best day ever. I promise. And I just love how committed you are every day to that, because it makes me look at it in that one moment where you get derailed. I go, man, I better step this up, because I know that Chris is having the best day ever. Yes. And I'm not going to settle for less than that. So thank you for what you do. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thank you, man. I appreciate that acknowledgement. We're making it the best day ever.
Yeah, baby.
And keep up the great work, James. We'll see you soon, okay?
Take care, bud.
Take care, man.